At 10 o'clock sharp, and I want to respect your time. So thank you for joining us today. We've officially gone over the 100 mark, so we are good to go. I'm going to mute everybody right now. And if you haven't muted yourself, please mute yourself. My name is Jen Brooks. I'm the athletic director at Ursuline in St. Louis. I'm also the mentor coordinator for the state of Missouri. My sidekick, my wingman on this is Mike McGurk. Mike, are you on here?
Yeah, I'm your Robin to Batman for sure, Jen. You've done a great job putting the slides together, and just really appreciate everybody joining us and being on and sharing some ideas and thoughts.
Yep, so this is definitely a collaborative effort. We're going to start things off today with Dr. Doug Coleman. He is going to chat with us about the championship factor and kind of inform everybody, because it is going to go into place next year. So Doug, it is all yours.
All right. Am I unmuted, Jen?
You are unmuted, yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you look at what I put together here is 6 brief slides. The first slide there, Jen, I think, can you advance it for me? So what I want to do today is spend about 3 to 5 minutes just sharing a few things. The 3 things I want to share is, number 1, how the process of classifying private and non-public schools will work in 2020, 2021, so next year, as it pertains and in alignment with the new championship factor, as well as how this old system will replace our 2-decade-old 1.35 multiplier for all private and non-public schools. Second thing I want to do is explain how the private non-public schools are either moved up 1 class or 2 classes, or remain in their raw enrollment classification, and why. Third thing is what I want to do is I want to give several examples per sport, and then 1 per school as to how individual sports and activities will be classified moving forward. So on the bottom of that first slide, you see I said 3-step process. So let me kind of walk through how this will work for next year and how how MIAAA will put these things together. So on the first step there is utilizing the new differentials. So if you remember, the other piece that we voted on last year as an association was using the standard deviation, those differentials for sport and activity classifications. All activities will be replaced in their respective classes under their raw enrollment. So your superintendent or your principal probably just recently input what your enrollment was for all private, non-public, as well as public schools as of, I want to say, was it yesterday, April 15th, I think? So that should have just happened. So MIAAA is going to take those numbers and then drop everybody into each individual class without any type of multiplier, with any type of championship factor, anything at all. Second thing on that 3-step process, the important thing to remember is that several of our sports and activities have new classes added. So for instance, this last year we voted on sport like basketball going from 5 classes to 6 classes, as well as a girls volleyball going from 4 classes to 5 classes, etc. A lot of sports and activities are staying the same, but some of them are being raised. None of our activities or sports are being lowered. The third step in that process then is where the championship factor comes into play. Championship factor points will be awarded to all private and non-public schools. Those schools will then move up 1 class or move up 2 classes, or potentially stay in their raw enrollment, depending upon, as the slide Jen has there, whether they have 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, or 4 point for the given year period. One thing that's real important, I think, is if a non-public school moves up 2 classes, there will then be a 2-class drop by other classes. So for instance, you have a class 3 private non-public moved up 2 classes to class 5 in a particular sport. You're going to have a class 5 public school drop to 4. You're also going to have another class 4 public school drop to 3. So whoever's in the bottom of that threshold will then be dropped. The slide there Jen has, you see on a 6-year rolling window, 1 point district championship, 2 point for semifinalists. One thing that people get confused with there is the piece I have on note. There are no points awarded for sectional winners. So if you're a basketball team and you win a sectional round, you still maintain 1 point. You do not have 2 points there. Only going to the final 4 is when you actually will accrue a second or a third point. The other thing to recognize is it's not a cumulative effect. A team, for instance, that wins a state championship does not earn 1 + 2 + 3 + 4. They don't earn those, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. They just get the 4 points as a state champion for that given year. If you want to go to the next slide, Jen. Actually, yeah, there you go. Yeah, perfect. So what this means then, if a school in a particular sport, so remember, this is not like the old multiplier, which is just a flat across the board piece. This is a sport by sport, activity by activity. I say activity because obviously it also impacts things like Scholar Bowl as well, not just our sports. If a school earns 0, 1, or 2 points in a previous 6-year cycle, they will stay in that, what we call the raw enrollment. So for instance, if a school, private or non-public, wins a state championship, they're immediately already being moved up one class for at least 6 years. So if they win one state championship and then do nothing for the next 5, they will already be moved up at least one class for those given year period of time. How that process will work then, so think for next year. So for 2020-21, the following years will be used to ascertain where each private or non-public school will be classified. We'll use obviously last year or this current year, 19-20, 18-19, 17-18, all the way back to 14-15. So think of your boys soccer team in the fall. You'll use the fall numbers from 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 to ascertain where you will fall. The one thing that MIAAA has not released yet is how to take into consideration this current year's spring activity. So obviously, we're not having spring activities this year. I do not know that. I know Kerwin is working with his staff on that, kind of how that will pertain to the championship factor. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. Next slide there. So here's boys soccer, for instance. Here's an actual school. So this school in 2014 was a semifinalist. So they basically finished as a runner-up. 15, obviously you see 15 and 16, they earned no points. 17, they had a quarterfinal win, meaning they went to the Final Four and they finished in 4th place. And then, nothing in 18, no points. In 19, they won a district championship. So that 6 that they received, they will then move up one class from their original classification in boys soccer. Next slide. Football. I chose 2 fall sports, again, just because it makes it easy. Obviously, we had our truncated winter season. We did not play the state championships in class 4-5 basketball, so I didn't want to try to figure out those points either. Just use the fall sports to make for ease of rolling through there. So here's you see what this is the actual football team. What they did, a non-public school did. They accrued 8 points. So then that school we moved up 2 classes. They'll go from class 2 to class 4 is kind of how that'll work for them in football. And then the last slide there I have, here's an example of a school. This is an actual school in our state association here. In their sports and activities, the sustained on the bottom of that level, the dialog box I have there, so they'll move up 2 classes in 4 particular sports. They'll move up 1 class in 6 particular sports, and then they'll be in their raw enrollment for the remaining 10 activities that they have in their school. So that's kind of what has been voted in, and obviously we're moving forward with in 2020, 2021. I hope I got that done quick enough, and I hope we've all probably heard this process many, many times. But Jen had indicated there might be some questions, so if there are any, I'd definitely let's talk through some pieces here. And if there's none, we can move on to Jen and Mike's next piece of the presentation.
So Doug, there was in the chat a question. If a private school gets bumped up a class, does the school that drops have to be a public school? And what if the school at the bottom of the class is private as well?
So that is the thing. It's great. That's a great question, Ryan. So that's a thing that the board is still working through. My understanding is that will be a public school that falls down, because it, by and large, the chances of being a private school anyways, there's roughly 70 private schools versus 480 or 500 public schools. It most likely will be a public anyways, but the board of directors still needs to make that final determination if it will in fact never bump down a private school and only a public school.
Hey, Doug.
Yep.
What? So under this, then, let's say cross country. The boys could be 5A and the girls could be 3A.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely some opportunities for a school to. It's getting goofy in cross country, for instance, Marty, where they're on different weekends, right? Your 1, 2, 3s run different than your 4, 5s. So you might have your boys running one weekend, your girls running another. Same thing with state track, same thing with state basketball, things along those lines. Yes.
Thanks.
Mitch asked a question, is there a cap on the number of classes a school can jump? Yes, there is. No more than two. No more than two, Mitch. So if you're a class 1, you cannot jump higher than 3. Likewise, if you're a 2, you cannot jump higher than 4. And like Josh says, their presentation will be on the MIAAA website. So that's definitely there. Question: rules apply to charter, public, and private. So yes, so any private, non-public, and a charter school is classified by MIAAA as a non-public school. So yes, it will apply to all charter and private and non-public schools.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions for Doug? Okay. Thanks, Doug. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Next thing we're going to talk about, Todd is going to chat about the state conference. Todd, are you on here?
I am. Thank you, Jen. Just want to give you guys some information on the conference. You guys should have probably received an email yesterday from your district reps. If you have not, I'll share the information. Executive board, we met on Tuesday morning, talked through some things, and as a group, we have decided to cancel our rescheduled dates that we'd set for, I think, May 30th through June 2nd. It was a tough decision, but as a group, we think it was the right decision because there's so much uncertainty out there yet still with a lot of things going on. We are disappointed because we cannot offer the face-to-face professional development because that is a key component of what we do for our spring conference. And we know we cannot offer that through a face-to-face, but we have in place, Josh, Scott, and I are going to work on some Zoom presentations. I've already made some phone calls this morning. We're going to take some of our breakouts from our schedule, and we're going to work with Jen, and in May and into June, we will offer some Zoom PD for our membership and for our ADs. A lot of the, not all of them, but a lot of the breakouts that we had scheduled for our conference will be some of the Zoom presentations, as well as we'll have some, of course, some new presentations or presenters that we can pull in. I know Doug Kilgore, who was going to be our keynote, he's offered to do a breakout for us sometime. And then we're also going to reach outside of Missouri and try to pull in some other topics that will benefit our membership. So we are disappointed we cannot offer it, but we know it's the best decision. And we think with our Zoom presentations that we'll still be able to benefit and grow from what we can present to everybody. So we will have our presenters that can present, work with Jen. I'll contact her, of course. Jen, I'll get with you some more details. Josh and I will compile a schedule once we start throwing that together. And then we'll try to offer it for sure May and hopefully all the way in through June. What we'd like to do is to keep entwine these presentations with these Zoom meetings that we're having here on Thursdays at 10 o'clock. So we'll work with you on that, and we can present, kind of come up with a better schedule, finalize that schedule, and get that to everybody. Also, before I leave on this, I need Keith, Jeff Taggart, Josh Scott, Marty O'Hearn, Mike McGurk, Jeff Whitney, Andy Herbst, Bill Deckelman. If you guys, all the executive board, if you guys can stay on here real quick when we're done, I've got a couple of things we need to talk about before we get completely off this. If you guys could hang on, that'd be awesome. You guys have any other questions for us?
I just remind everybody that we are going to roll over your conference fee to next year. We have a list of that, and we will keep track of that. And eventually, when we get this kind of all settled in, we will put that on our website. And also MIAAA MO. So you can look it up next year if you don't remember. But also remember that dues are paid for this year already. So you will have to get dues again next year, but you won't have to sign up for the conference again.
Yes, thanks, Marty. Also, we've talked to Ann, Jeff Whitney, and I talked to her yesterday, got everything straightened out for this year with having to cancel and then moving forward what we're going to do with the conference. And also, Ann will cancel all rooms. So if you've already set up rooms for the rescheduled date in May, June, you don't have to cancel, make that phone call. She's just going to cancel everybody's room for our group. So she'll take care of that.
Great.
Todd, what about scholarships?
That's what we're gonna talk about here at the end with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any state conference questions?
Yeah. Hey, Todd, those workshops, will they be open to more than just Missouri folks, or are we, I mean, with our Zoom account, we can get up to 300, or are we just going to keep it with our Missouri folks?
No, I'm open to people outside the state. Josh and I talked about that today. Josh has some ideas that we can pull some people in from other states and benefit from their expertise and what they can bring to us. So yeah, we're open to any of that. And here in the next week or so, Josh and I will put that schedule together and start getting that out. And then we may reach out to some of you guys too to see, because as you guys know, we have a lot of very, very strong ADs in the state of Missouri, and we have a lot of guys that can present and share a lot of information. So if you would like to present on a certain topic, don't hesitate to reach out to Josh or myself. If you know somebody in your district that's good at a certain thing, please share that with us too, so we can benefit from what's working for our state association.
Thanks, Todd. All right, everybody good? Moving on. We are going to chat about the Section 5 summer meetings that are going to be online. Mike or Josh?
Yeah, we decided as a section this week that we are canceling. Well, we're just not going to meet in person. We usually do it in Omaha, and the MIAAA sends up 5 people to these meetings, and basically it's we get to listen to a presentation from Mike Blackburn and Phil Risen and a couple other folks. Jamie Sherwood is our Section 5 board member. And this year is going to be important because they're going to be going over the strategic plan, the new one that is coming forward. And so what we're doing is we're going to, if people would like to be part of this, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. Just send myself or Josh an email, the dates. And we haven't figured out the times exactly yet, but the dates will be June 9th and June 10th. We're still working on, we've kind of broke it up because it could be a lot of discussion. That strategic plan is lengthy, and it just gives you an idea of, what other ADs are doing in the section. For those of you not familiar, we are in with Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. There'll be some folks on there. There's usually some good discussion. So if you would like to take part in that sectional meeting online, just send myself or Josh an email, because the MIAAA will be sending out invites to that meeting once it's finalized. And they're just trying to make sure that we can include some folks who maybe have never been to a section meeting, who want to see what it's like, or have some time and want to hear about the strategic plan that the MIAAA has moving forward. Josh, do you want to add anything?
No, that's good. You covered everything.
Great, thanks, Mike. Next is the MIAAA spring webinars, workshops, and classes. Hopefully you all have had the link. You see the link on the MIAAA website. There's tons of free webinars. There's LTC classes. So please make sure you're taking advantage of those. We will have that link on our resources on the MIAAA webpage. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments about the webinars or workshops? I've taken a couple of them. They're pretty good. Okay, so we just wanted to remind you that that is out there and to utilize that. Next thing we wanted to chat about was mental health for our coaches. So we've talked so much about our kids and how are our kids doing, our players doing, our athletes doing, but what have we done to support our coaches? And so this is a question that we're throwing out to the group. What have you done to support your coaches, mental health through this? Like for me, my staff they're mostly not teachers. They're not in the building. So, this is on asking them to go way, way, way above what they've ever even thought of doing. So what are you doing to help them? Anybody?
Hey, Jen, Dr. Mapes was going to be one of our breakout sessions at our conference, and she was going to talk about mental health. So I've reached out to her this morning through email to try to see if she'll present a segment on mental health here the first part of May. So hopefully we'll be able to gather some of that information from her here in the next week or two.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Hey, Jen, I heard a great speaker. He was a sports psychologist at the University of Miami yesterday, and he said, really, we should be, as administrators, working under the oxygen mask theory. Like in an airplane, when the oxygen mask comes down, they instruct you to put it on first before you put it on somebody else. And he said right now, as athletic administrators and the coaches, we need to be taking care of ourselves before we can take care of others. So he just reminded us to make sure we're in routines and, going out for walks and doing some stuff so that we are in a good spot to be able to help others. I thought that was pretty interesting take from that Zoom call yesterday.
Yeah, I really like that. Anybody else? Okay, well, if you have any ideas on how you're uniquely reaching out and supporting your coaches, please share that with us. All right, links and resources. We want to hear from you all what you are using and finding that is helpful and useful. So like what links, what websites, what webinars are you going to? What cool apps are you using? Who should we be following on Facebook or Twitter? We want to remind you that there's resources on the MIAAA website, on the NIAAA website, on the National Federation's website. I do the Global Community of Women High School Sports. We have a whole Google Drive on COVID-19. There's another group out there called National AD Resources. They also have a bunch of stuff. So what are you doing and using that we can share with everybody else?
Hey, Jen, it's Josh. I follow Greg Dale on Twitter, and he is hosting Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Central, a coaching kind of webcast with Duke's lacrosse coach. If you DM Greg on Twitter, he will send you the passcode, but they had some security issues a couple weeks ago, so you had to get a link, and he's asking not to share it with other people, but it's fantastic. I think this week's is about kids dealing with adversity. Last week's was about, conversations to have with coaches during this time and building staff. So I think Greg is one of the best in the business. So that has been a good one for me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I second that, Josh. I just sent that out, and I have a handful of coaches participating this week as well with that chat. And it is for coaches, not ADs. So if you want to send that out as a resource, Greg Dale from Duke University. It's a great resource and it's free. So just have to DM him and he'll get you the code for that. But it is for coaches, not ADs.
What else, you all? One of the things that I had a conversation about the other day with an athletic director, I think she was from Oregon, is that in this time, people aren't holding these trade secrets that we usually tend to do, that we're sharing all of the good, the things that we find and the good that we're doing. So I know that there's good and great things going on in your buildings, in your schools, and what you're doing. So share that with us now. What other resources are out there for everyone? There's some people are putting them in the chat, so thank you.
Yeah, somebody mentioned the John Gordon piece, and he did a Power Positive Summit, which was awesome. I sent a couple of those videos to my coaches and asked if they had any that they felt like were very good, because I know a few of mine participated in that summit. And so we had a kind of video exchange between our head coaches in regards to what we felt like were good motivational videos from that Power of Positive Summit.
Anybody else have anything to share as far as useful ideas, links, resources, etc.? All right. Let's talk about suggestions, questions, topics. So we would like to hear from you, and you can either verbalize it or put it in the chat. What are some topics that you want us to chat about next week? Is there anybody out there that wants to present a topic or a concept? Or we would love for you to take a slide and present. So please share that with us now.
Well, Jen, there was also a question about spring coaches and athletic trainers. What are they doing for the athletes since they're getting paid and not allowed to really be with the kids. And if anybody wants to share, I know some people are doing, their athletic trainers are having virtual meetings with student athletes to go over some injuries and rehab pieces. I don't know what else. Some others are working on updating Privet accounts, making sure that looks good. I know our athletic trainers are working on updating emergency action plans for each of our sports and coaches to make sure they're up to date. If others want to share, that was great. That'd be great.
Jen, there's a comment about seeing if Kerwin can join us again. I think that's a good suggestion. We can reach out to him and see if we can't get him on next week.
Yep, sounds good. Come on, you all. This is a collaborative effort. We want to hear from you. How's everyone planning home and away contests for next year? I think we kind of talked about that last time. We said that we're going to keep it on track. Was that what we said? That we're not skipping this year. We're acting as if it happened and moving with the alternative site next year.
Yeah, and Jen, I think the Illinois schools aren't doing that. We play Columbia in soccer, and they just want to like keep the same home and away as this year and roll it over. But it's not official yet. They're debating that. So if you're playing Illinois schools, double check with them.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. There's lots of stuff going on in the chat, so make sure that you're reading in chat, and we'll also include that in our resources, so you'll have that as another resource. Anything else? Okay. Then we
Hey,
will meet.
Jen,
Yeah.
there was a question about how different people are recognizing spring senior athletes. I think our school districts are doing some yard signs just overall for all seniors. I've seen a couple schools do some virtual signings yesterday. And then a lot of people, if you follow, just off the top of the head, Lebanon High School, Washington High School are doing a great job highlighting a different senior every day on Twitter. And I just, that's kind of a model I've used to try and push out to our schools to follow. Bill and Will are doing a great job on that.
Awesome.
I see the question from Mike about collecting uniforms, and that's really going to be your school district decision. Some are a little bit more conservative than others. Some are allowing them to drop off at a coach's home or have a drop off at school, picks them up, etc. Some are not like us, and at least we're not allowed to do anything yet. We just have to sit and wait. They're discussing that and Chromebook returning type items before they'll allow us to do anything. But yeah, the Chromebook is also part of it, and they're trying to finalize that this week as well in our district.
So people are talking about updates on contact days. We'll ask Kerwin that next week when he's on the chat with us. We'll get more info on that.
I bet Jen, the board of directors are meeting today, probably right now. I would imagine we will all get a pretty lengthy email with the outcomes of that tomorrow, Monday at the latest. And then I think we'll have some more direction. We've been trying to just stay put until we get that direction from them.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
And Jen, if anybody wants help with this spring sports senior spotlight piece on social media, I just create a Google form and I send it to my seniors so that they could fill it out, and then I create the slides and then tweet them out. But if anybody wants a copy of that form or an example of what's been going on, I feel free. Myself, I'm sure Will at Lebanon and Bill at Washington will be able to share that information if people would like a template to use to help them set that up.
Yep. And I have one as well if anybody needs it. Okay, in the meantime, should you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to any of us. We're in this together. So the more we collaborate, I think we better serve our student athletes, and obviously that's what we're here for. So
hey,
we will,
Jen,
yep.
Jen, if Jen, Mike, Will, you know, Bill Deckelman, if you guys can send me kind of the idea of what you have, I can put it in our COVID resources on our website. That way people can just go straight there and download it. I can have that updated by the end of today.
Great. Thanks, Josh.
Hey, Jen, also a reminder, we need the executive group to stay on just for a little bit.
Okay. Great. All right, everybody. We will see you next Thursday, 10 a.m. Have a great week. Be safe.